Okay, we are live, at least as far as what YouTube is telling me. Thanks for checking out the stream. My name is Aaron. Thanks for being here. Thanks for watching. For what, you're probably wondering at this point, maybe. You could check out my previous streams. I talk about Lovable. Lovable is an app that allows you to generate apps in seconds. And so, like, you can even generate, even more recently, an app from a URL. So one of the more recent introductions was here on Twitter, on X. You can generate an app from a URL. So simply generate.new and then followed by any prompts. So it'll just spin it out into Lovable, right? So there's a lot of things you can do with Lovable. We'll maybe come back and circle back around to that. But Lovable and the team is always adding new features, which is, again, one of the reasons why I keep coming back to Lovable. But what are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk about 3JS and some of the other integrations with Lovable. What you can do with Lovable with some of the other third-party services integrations, some which are supported more, some are a bit more congruent, just like in terms of the compatibility. Others are sort of, you can make it work, but it will take a little bit of trial and effort. So what should we talk about? Where should we pick up? What are we doing? My name is Aaron. Thanks for being here. I'm Gray's Reality on X, on Twitter, Gray's Reality here on YouTube. If you want to check out some of the previous streams, I've done now about 2 weeks almost worth of streams daily. So this has become a daily exercise where I hop on for about an hour and just catch up with you, talk about projects that I'm seeing out in the wild in terms of anything built with AI. So again, sort of catering towards the building AI coding, no code development, or minimal code development. So if you're into that kind of thing, building apps, building things using AI, prompting, prompt engineering, that kind of stuff, then you're probably in the right place. If not, then you could stick around, but that's up to you. So integrations. Let's actually do this. Let me just push this out into the world so that if anybody's interested in the same thing, they can come swing by the stream and check it out, right? So I'm just gonna hop on my channel real quick. Again, Gray's Reality over on YouTube. Let's just go to my main page. I feel like I need an easier way and automate it. I should be able to figure this out because, you know, I like automation as well. So there shouldn't be any reason why I can't just push this like automatically out to the world. But sometimes, you know, I like to free flow a little bit. And tomorrow will be more of that, I think. Still trying to format the show in a way that is conducive to you know, viewership and anybody that tunes in, because, you know, I can sit here and probably ramble for an hour, which is what I have been doing. But, you know, it's probably a better way to do it. So, all right. So let's see. What happened? I'm just going to push this. Hold on. Share it on Twitter. It's going to fire up Twitter. Talking about at 3JS and other at Lovable integrations on today's stream. On today's live stream. Okay, talking about 3JS and other Lovable dev integrations on today's live stream. Okay, pushing that out into the world. All right, so now that that's done, we can get on to the meat and potatoes, as they say. Got the coffee. So this is AI coding and coffee. That's kind of the just general theme. And lately, again, all things Lovable. So Lovable is on the screen if you haven't checked it out. Lovable.dev. You can also check out a personal landing page that I built within, you know, less than 30 minutes on graysreality.lovable.app. So lovable.dev is where you go to build the thing. And then if you push an app out into the world, it's lovable.app. So Gray's Reality. Let's see. I could probably just fire it up here. Gray's Reality. This is the app that was built. again, check out a previous live stream session where I built this out. It's a working, fully functional site. And if you go here to publish and then just go to the link, then you can see that it's out there in the world under the graysreality.lovable.app domain. I could push this to a custom domain. For the time being, it just lives here, which is fine. Contact form, links, find me, find Lovable, find me on X, find me on YouTube, and all the other good places. So this was built in Lovable within less than 30 minutes through just a few different iterations, a handful of prompts, and there you go. So if you've ever built out anything on card or anything like that, then it's very similar to building a simple website. So many things you could do. But again, let's talk about Three.js specifically, because, and what Three.js is, it's a library. Give me a sec here. I'm going to go ahead and hop over to a project that I fired up yesterday after talking about some stuff on the stream. It was specifically finding new app ideas. And one of the integrations that I specifically wanted to play with was Three.js. Three.js. So let me do this. I'm gonna pull up their Twitter Three.js, because I'm not a Three.js expert by any means, but I see the coolest stuff happening on X, right? So if we go to Three.js, it says making 3D easier since 2010. Three.js. So if you look at this, there's all kinds of stuff. Like I saw this morning and I was like, what is, like, I just can't, I don't even know how this is possible, right? So I see things like this and I'm like, this is a Three.js project. This is like super cool. So it's cool to me because I went to, once upon a time, went to school to do 3D modeling and animation. So specifically like building character animation using like Maya and like 3ds Max and things like that. But this was like an eternity, like just forever long ago. But it's still like one of the things that I find super cool, like just 3D rendering and like the fact that you could bring this to the web, like this kind of stuff these days is just like, it just is kind of like, wow, right? So what else is on here? Let's go and check out some of the other Three.js stuff. Yesterday I was talking about building out an app, because we were talking about app ideas and building out new app stuff. And one of the ideas that I saw was like there was a space app, right? So explore space in the universe. And I was like, well, it would be cool if you could do this with Three.js. And so then, like, what? I mean, so it's possible. Right, and so I'm like, it got my head, sort of got my, wheels spinning, and I'm like, I want to get involved here. I want to do something, with this library, with this thing. And if we look at some of the integrations here, if we go to Lovable and we talk about integrations, there are, several verified integrations: Runware, OpenAI, Anthropic, Stripe, and then Three.js. Add interactive 3D graphics to your app, Three.js, right? And here's the page that it connects to. Connect Lovable to Three.js. You can add interactive apps using Three.js integration steps, but pretty much like build something cool with Three.js, right? Or, and then customize your 3D elements based on your needs. What's possible? 3D scene rendering, interactive animations, custom shaders and materials, physics simulations. And then it's like, 3D, build something. This is the prompt. Build something cool with Three.js, right? And so I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, can I make like those things, right? Can I make like this stuff? Like, can I make shaders? Like, can I make this work with Lovable, right? Like this. Like, this is just wild. Like, I mean, these are, like, it would take a while to do this. Like, I don't even know exactly where Three.js stuff gets built, like outside of, there's the Lovable integration, but then like this kind of stuff. All I know is I see things like this and I'm like, this is like super cool stuff, right? This is just like creative and, you can create animation. Anyways, you get the point. There's a lot of cool things that you can make using Three.js. And here's just example after example. And so it's like, okay, cool. All right, so how do we actually do that? So we look at the integrations, and if you look at this, you're just like, all right, like here, let's just copy this prompt, right? Let's just actually see what happens when we throw this into the app, right? So let's just do this in real time and see what happens. So it's going to spin up a preview. If you're not familiar with Lovable, how it works, you type a prompt and then you sort of describe what you want it to do, and then it will build it right in real, like in front of you, right in front of your very eyes. So I took the prompt literally from the Three.js integration page on Lovable. Okay, and so it should do something. I have no idea what it's going to do. The prompt is pretty vague. It's like build something cool with Three.js, and so at this point you're just leaving it all up to the Lovable to figure out what it wants to build. No other direction other than that. We'll just see if this comes close to building anything cool with Three.js. Anything that looks like what was on the Twitter timeline. So again, before it spins up the preview, again, in my mind, I'm like, all right, are we gonna get this? Like, this is super cool. Like, what exactly are we gonna get? Like these shaders and like this stuff happening. It's just all pretty cool. Are we going to get a polygon, floating polygon? I don't, this is pretty cool too. Like, I mean, it's not as cool as some of these other things, but still pretty cool, right? All right, so what are we going to get? Okay, all right, so this is what we got. So when we say build something cool, what do we have here? We've got the ability to rotate this thing, all right? So it says click and drag to rotate, scroll to zoom. Not bad. Honestly, this is better than what I was doing yesterday. So I sort of tweeted that like I wasn't ready to go down this rabbit hole, but like this with one prompt is pretty cool. Now I don't know how basic or generic this is. Like, I don't know, not being a Three.js builder or artist, no idea how long something like this would take. But with one prompt, like this is kind of what we get. So that's pretty much it. The little ball over here seems to do nothing. The little Jupiter planet just seems to be hanging out. These seem to be connected. And so, all right, pretty cool, right? I mean, cool enough, I guess. It's debatable whether this is cool or not. So we've got the Three.js integration, and so that's what it will do. So if you say build something cool with Three.js, then there you go. You've got an interactive 3D scene. All right, not quite what I would expect to see based on these examples. So even if I said, build a Three.js boat in a bottle, right? If I tried to just prompt that, right? Build a boat in a bottle, like what would that do in Three.js, using Three.js? So let's go. Build a boat in a bottle using Three.js. Okay, so just again, they got the boat in the bottle. I'm gonna prompt build a boat in a bottle. And then we'll see how far the gap is. We'll see what kind of gap we're talking about. And then I'll tell you about the gap that exists in my mind between what the results are that we're getting and what it would take to actually pull this off, like pull this kind of thing off. All right, so build a boat in a bottle. I'm gonna have a sip of coffee. If you have any questions about anything, just let me know. Just hop in the comments, chat with me. This is all live. This is all not scripted in any means, so I have plenty of time for conversation and for dialogue. So if you're new to Lovable, if you're new to Three.js, if you're an expert at Three.js, you can tell me how to make things cooler, a lot cooler, because the stuff that I've been able to produce so far has been not the coolest. Okay, all right, so here we go, right? And so this is, it is a boat in a bottle. It did not lie, right? This built it out in a matter of seconds, and it built a boat in a bottle. It said, hey, I'll help you build a classic scene of a boat in a bottle using Three.js. Now, how do you get it from here to here? That seems like that's where the gap is, right? For me, like I in my mind, I'm like, how close, can I get something like this, like with a one-shot prompt? And so this is a one-shot prompt. Like, this is what you get with a one-shot prompt. The problem is, once you're here, if you're trying to push this, like if you're trying to like make the sail blow, or like make it look more like a pirate boat, right? It starts to break down, at least for me. And then again, this is my limited experience with 3JS, and this is just me exploring some of these other integrations that Lovable has. So, you know, if we talk about some of the other integrations, Stripe, you know, it's pretty easy to add Stripe with Lovable now. You can kind of just prompt your way through that. OpenAI, pretty straightforward. Grab your key, configure, you know, set up your secrets in terms of your OpenAI key in Supabase. The Supabase integration is straightforward, like it's just native almost. So like a lot of these things you can do. I haven't explored any of these other data visualization, D3JS or P5.js. High charts, maybe. I've stumbled across that just building out like dashboards and stuff for metrics. Resend I've used in a couple of other apps, not specific to Lovable, but I'm familiar with Resend, so you can get email capabilities, more like transactional emails. So if stuff happens, you can kind of fire emails out, and then you have other unverified integrations, which, you know, probably require a bit more tinkering, a bit more under the hood, sort of getting it to work the way that you would expect. So you got verified integrations and unverified integrations. But again, today specifically talking about 3JS, building something cool, what is actually cool, and, you know, closing the gap between like this boat in a bottle and this boat in a bottle, right? I'm sure this is where the work really is, right? And so can you do this with AI? I don't think you could do this yet. I've seen some stuff with like creating 3D assets with AI. So that's probably something that I'll think about trying to figure out how to bring to Lovable. So at this point, I'm like, okay, so you can do some basic 3JS stuff here. One of the other projects that I'm working on that I just fired up yesterday, I wouldn't say working on because these are sort of just spur of the moment types of things. But I got this, like, I built out this virtual pet sort of like cam thing, right? So the idea is that you have a virtual pet, but I wanted to spin on it. So I was like, well, what if it's like a pet cam, but instead of a real pet, you have a virtual pet. So it's like a virtual pet that exists inside of a camera sort of scene. And then you can do things like feed it, play with it, feed it. And then ideally it would be interactive. So the user interface stuff is all very straightforward. Like, I mean, prompting the interface to make it fun, playful, vibrant, you know, like that's cool. Like I'm happy with sort of this interface that Lovable built. And again, this was done with just a handful of prompts, right? So in this particular case, it was like create a 3D. So let me actually tell you how I got here before we jump into this one. And you can see where, like, for me, the pet needs work, right? So 3JS, this is the pet, the little, you know, Minecraft looking grayscale dude here. So I feel like the pet needs work. And so what this started out with was going back to the dashboard. Let's take a look at Playful Doodles, Whimsical Vessel, Pet Visionary, Pet. Okay, let's go, I think, to the first version. Okay, so here's another version, right? Virtual pet, my virtual pet. So the prompt was create a virtual pet using 3JS, right? And it would be cool if, you know, if you had a history and then there was like a actual preview of what it built at the time. So like some sort of like way to see versions of it visually, because these change a lot. It didn't initially look like this. It was kind of like dark and I don't really want to restore every version just to show you, but it didn't initially come out like this. But the little guy here sort of like jumps up and down and you can feed it. And then, you know, you got little notifications and you can theoretically take a picture, that kind of stuff. But this, again, I'm like, all right, the interface is cool. I've got some 3D happening. It's animating. But, you know, how do I get it from looking like a bowling ball to, like, again, something a little more cool? A hamburger, you know, anything really that, you know, would look more like a pet. And so you see stuff like this built in 3JS, like, you know, and you're like, how do you make that happen? And I quickly found out yesterday, and again, I tweeted this or sort of put this out on Twitter. I was like, I wasn't ready for this rabbit hole, because you get here and then you're like, okay, cool. And so if you look at these prompts, like it started out with create a virtual pet, right? And so it created the thing. And then I was like, can we make a jump? And then it goes through an animation sequence and like, you know, yes, let's make a jump. And so then you could make it, you know, you click on it, it sort of jumps. And then you try to control like, and then I was like, all right, how do we make it, you know, because as you play with this, right, the idea is it's a virtual pet and it would get tired. So it's got this little battery bar energy thing. And so if you play with it, I was like, it'd be cool if like, you know, other than it telling me it's too tired, like if you can animate the eyes and if you could, you know, make it stop moving and, you know, start playing with the animations and the mechanics of the gameplay. And so it's like, I gave it some inspiration, you know, can we make it look more fun and inviting? That's where I sort of redid the interface. But then I got into like the mechanics of it all. So let's just scroll down a little bit to shading. I was trying to get the look right. Okay, how can we make it more fun and engaging? Visual cues. Let's start with the control panel. So we did that. And then I want to get into like, all right, so how does it recover, right? So what does this thing do? Can we make it look more increasingly tired, right? And it's like, yeah, we could do that. You know, we can do this by animating stuff, the eyes, the body language, the, you know, this, that, and the other. We can slow it down. And I'm like, yeah, let's do that. You know, I want to make sure, you know, let's make it look like he's going to go to sleep. And so we could do it this way. It's like, yeah. And then I'm like, okay, let's go ahead and put that into play. Let's make it happen, right? And so it's like, you know, goes through. It's like here for eye animations, for the particle system, for the sleeping. We'll do this, that, and the other. It's like, yeah, do it. And then it just wouldn't work. Like, I mean, it just sort of deteriorates. Like it just breaks down. And I don't know if that's just the training of the model on the 3GS library or like where it starts to break down, but I couldn't really push the character development like much further. I gave it examples, you know, like, can we put some furniture in here? And it builds it, but it built it like that, like bottle in a boat, that boat in a bottle, sort of like basic geometry stuff. And so I think prompting with 3JS is probably really, really difficult to do. I think you probably need some other way to build the model and then pull it into Lovable, right? So yes, 3JS works. I don't know. I would love to see somebody that's pulled off like a really cool project with Lovable and 3JS, like, and how it all comes together. Because yes, you can just say, build me something cool in 3JS and prompt that and get something. But once you have that thing, like refining it or telling it, like the animation, the mechanics of 3JS, I think is all a little bit over what Lovable is capable of interpreting, or at least the underlying models, right? So anyways, that's kind of my experience with 3JS. Yes, it works, but your mileage may vary. And of course, if you are a 3JS sort of artist, you probably have a much better foundation for making something much cooler in here. One little side note is I was going to remix this project, so I got this far, and I'm like, well, maybe it's just, you know, let's try it again. Let's take another go. Let's try to make this happen again. So one thing I like to do is actually just have chat summarize what we've built so far. So I was like, describe the app in a few sentences. This actually gives me a way to prompt a new version of it. So I asked it to tell me about it. That way I can then just take the description, pop it back into Lovable, and build out another interface, right? So in this particular case, it's like, our app is a charming virtual pet monitoring system that does this. It has a character with an interface and like all the things, right? And so I'm like, let me take this and see if we can get another cool like character design. Maybe it's just me. Maybe it's my prompt. Maybe it's, you know, something like that. So what that ultimately turned into was the second version of this, which was this one. Now I've got to look. They're all named something. Yeah. So we ended up here, right? And so this is, again, 3JS. And if we look at the prompt, the initial prompt, I basically copied, create a charming, and I basically copied the prompt in here. And then ended up with an interface that I actually like more than the last interface. So this one's more fun. It reminds me more of a virtual pet, sort of like the way that you would interface with a virtual pet. But again, where I think it falls short is the 3JS, the modeling, or at least my lack of modeling skills with 3JS. And so it's like, all right, so do you need to go back to Blender? Like, where do you actually do the mechanics of the model, right? So the front end, in terms of the interface, the UI, pretty cool, right? The buttons work, like, you know, if you feed this, like, it does, you know, these things change, and then you can tie it to the model. But in terms of like trying to make the model look better, this is as good as like, I mean, I have a picture of like something that resembled a duck. But even if you're like, can we make it? So let's go back to the bottom of this. All right. So it's like, I got to a point where I'm like, should we just abandon 3GS? Can we try something else? But before we get there, it's like, can we make it a voxel style character, right? And so let's just try to make, I'll give you an example here of something. Let's go make the pet more fun and cool looking, right? So if we just throw this at it, last time I ended up with like a spinning acorn, like it was just like miss after miss after miss. And so when I say I wasn't ready for the 3JS rabbit hole, this is exactly what I mean. So it's like, all right, I'll update the pet's appearance and animations to make it more engaging and fun with Canvas 2D. All right, so it's actually picking up from a conversation from yesterday where I was like, do we have to use 3JS? Because I got to a place where I was just kept like banging my head into a wall with this like character design using Lovable, like trying to do character design in Lovable. Actually, okay. All right, so that's not bad. It's actually way better than the 3JS, right? This actually is kind of cool. I'm not gonna lie. It's way more animated and fun than that Minecraft character that we were looking at before. So I guess it's not a great example. So if we go back, because it completely jumped out of 3JS, I was trying to stick with the 3JS example, but this would probably, for this project, this looks cooler. So whether or not we keep 3JS or continue going down that route, I just feel like yes, there's an integration with it, but boy, it's gonna take some work, right? You're gonna have to have a good sort of solid understanding of the math, the you know, how this stuff is actually done, rendered, built, because I don't know that you can prompt your way into any of this. Like that character right there probably is as close as I got. This little spinning, you know, the little, yeah, that maybe I can pull that off in Lovable, but some of this other stuff, you know, I see these things and I'm like, can you build, is it possible to wrap Lovable around something like this? So if you get 3GS working to a place that you can do this kind of thing, like can you wrap a UI with Lovable around this? The answer is probably yes. How you get there is undetermined for me. I think it requires a ton of work, right? It's going to require Blender. You know, this is an example of a model that was built in Blender. So if I want a virtual pet turtle that looks like a balloon animal, then, you know, I think this is where it starts. You have to build it out in some other platform. I think you could probably do this. You could probably, there are some AI tools that will allow you to build 3D assets. And so if you can get the 3D asset built using another engine, like the character part, then you can probably come back to, you know, your Lovable setup and try to somehow import it, right? So that gets us like talking about some other, you know, what we'll talk about maybe on tomorrow. Tomorrow I want to talk about like bringing in other components into Lovable. So today we're talking about integrations, right? So some of these integrations with Lovable, native ones, and then unverified integrations. But I'm seeing a lot of like posts on X just about like generic UI, generic AI looking stuff, right? So if you say build a landing page, right, you're going to get a sort of generic website, generic landing page, right? Generic copy. I think there's definitely ways around that. You know, you just got to prompt, you got to provide context, you know, what the goal is, you know, and then really, honestly, it's like sculpting. Like I find that like prompting is like sculpting. You know, you get a block, you have a block of clay or whatever, Play-Doh, a piece of wood. And you start with, you know, that. And then you just sort of keep carving until you have like this finely like carved, really artistic thing. But I don't think it just happens, right? You know, one-shot prompt, maybe you get lucky, right? This interface didn't look like this. I mean, it's not the coolest thing in the world, but it did not look like this on the first shot. Like I had to sort of nudge it in the right direction in terms of like what I was seeing, right? And look, he's got a cookie. Right? Where did the cookie come from? I have no idea where the cookie came from. It just decided that it was gonna, he's hungry. Oh, okay, so maybe we feed it. Oh, see? It did the mechanics without me even thinking about it, which is again another reason why Lovable is cool. But there are a lot of variables that you sort of have to like harness, right? So I didn't tell it to like show a cookie. It just decided that it was going to show a cookie when I got hungry. Anyways, so 3JS. These are a couple of examples of like I think the gap between like where Lovable is now, the integration, what it actually means. You know, because again, just thinking that you can just do this, you know, with the connect Lovable to 3JS and just like build something cool, that I think is it's a stretch. Like, yes, it's, I guess, cool, but pushing it beyond that in Lovable, like prompting 3JS, as I don't have a solution. So again, if you have any experience with 3JS or some of these other integrations with Lovable, let me know, because I sort of got to a place where it was just like, I think this is as far as like I can push this without needing help from other, you know, going to another platform, building it out, Blender, 3D assets, and then somehow getting them into Lovable. What else can we get into Lovable? So I think that'll be a topic of conversation for tomorrow's stream. I like to keep these streams a little bit sort of focused, at least for the time being. So today we're talking about 3JS and the integrations, but tomorrow I think I want to talk about using other sort of component libraries. So 3JS I think is what's considered a library. It's just a 3D library for JavaScript or Java. But something like 21st Dev, I'm seeing a lot of people building, basically taking a design. So we talked about the generic sort of outputs that you get from Lovable from using like generic prompts. You get a generic thing, and then you want to tweak it, right? You can either tweak it with your own prompts, or you could take other people's prompts. Or in this particular case, there's a website called 21st Dev, right? And so let me just 21st.dev. And let's just bring it in over here. Let's just push it in over here. All right, so this is this thing, and it's got components. And so there's all these assets, if you will, components, things. Like if you want waves in the background of your thing, right? If you want like waves, you can come over here, and then I think you can, from what I understand, copy the prompt. So we copied the prompt. So if we go back to Lovable, for instance, let's just take a project, and let's just take something that was built in 3JS. All right, so sticking with the 3JS theme, let's just take not this. Let's go back to the genie in a bottle, or the thing that we built with the boat, because that seems a little bit more conducive to waves, right? So let's take this. We get the boat in a bottle. So here's, again, the 3JS like boat. Let's try to fix this error real quick. So another thing I like about Lovable is the fact you could just fix things, or at least try to fix it. If you get into this like spin cycle of fixing, I typically abandon, or I try to like do something else. But there's sometimes, these are usually like TypeScript errors. So you can usually resolve them pretty quickly. But so it's like we're going to ignore it for now. We're just going to try to put some waves in here, right? So let's look at this prompt, because it's pretty huge. All right, so copy paste this component to, so it's got all the settings. So this is basically everything that was copied from 21st Dev, right? And so at the end of it, I don't know if there's so it's all the Okay, so let's just put the goal at the top, right? I think I want to make waves in the background using this. So prompt followed by a copy and paste job, right? So let's just submit it, see what happens. And let's just see how Lovable interprets the 21st dev data. So we're gonna try this. We're gonna see how it goes and see if we can make the waves sort of show up behind our little sailboat here in a bottle. So it's like, I'll help you add the waves to your project. Let me implement this step by step. Added a wavy animated background to the scene, which creates an animated wave effect behind your boat in a bottle visualization. Right, so another error. I don't see any waves yet. Maybe the error is specific to the waves. Don't know. Let's try to fix it. If you have questions, again, about any of these things, and I can answer them, I'm happy to do so. So feel free to drop a chat, comment, find me on X, Twitter, anywhere. So it's like I couldn't do that. I can't fix that. My waves aren't showing up. So let's say I still don't see any waves. And again, I would probably, in most cases, switch to chat and then have a conversation about why the waves aren't showing up. But again, for the sake of demoing in real time, especially on the live stream, I just find that like it's probably better that we just go. At least that's what I would want to see if I'm watching this. Other than this TypeScript error or whatever this is really an unsolvable error. And this hasn't worked, right? So tell you what, let's back up. Let's try to take a more simple project. Or maybe we prompt from scratch. Or is there anything else that I could put waves behind? Tell you what, let's just prompt straight up. Let's just take the prompt from 21st Dev. So again, the idea is that we can take this, where did it go? Prompt, well, the prompt that I just pasted in here, this long one, and have it put waves in the background. So I'm gonna start from a fresh slate just to see if it can render this as we go along here. So it's building. Hopefully it's building waves. It says it's updating wave components. So again, this is something that we just copied and pasted from 21st.dev. And the idea being we should hopefully see waves behind here on the screen. Okay, so we've got waves. Actually, it's pretty good. I mean, that was an unmodified prompt. I didn't tell it to do anything. I just wanted that cool effect right there. I think this is actually something that would be pretty useful for the sound generation app that I have. Like I was looking for, I have a particle effect on it, but again, this is something that's a little bit more wavy, just in terms of an audio sort of, anyways, like this, I think that this could be pretty cool use for another project. But I'll spend some more time doing this, potentially playing with more prompting with the 21st Dev site. So again, 21st Dev is a site that is a library of things. And we just took the waves example here. We copied the prompt that was here, right? So just copied it and decided to put that in here into our Lovable app, right? So wouldn't you know, we've got something that looks just like this. Hero waves are cool. And then we've got welcome to your app with waves, right? Same waves, same waves. So that was actually pretty cool. So there's a huge library too. So in here, and this is really the first time I'm even exploring the site. I've just seen people talking about it. So you've got all kinds of different effects. So depending on your project, depending on what it is that you're trying to do, you can sort of get some of these elements. It reminds me a lot of like if you've ever used Canva. Canva has these elements that you can repurpose. So it's a library, like this huge library of like assets that you can then just use for your project, right? So if you have a Canva subscription It's kind of like graphic design, but same idea. You just have like a library of assets that you can pick and choose from, and then you can use them in your project, right? So this is very similar as just with different like, with components. So a whole bunch of things. So again, if you're trying to not make your project look as generic as some people are calling most AI projects these days, then this might be an interesting avenue. But I think I'll wrap the stream for now because I'm getting off topic a bit. 3JS was what I was wanting to keep the conversation around the integrations, and 3JS is one of them. But if you have experimented with 3JS, if you've built something cool using 3JS, leave a link somewhere. Like, let me know what it is. I want to share cool projects. I want to understand the limitations of Lovable, like where it breaks down, where its strengths are, where its weaknesses are. What kind of projects are a little bit more conducive to Lovable than, say something else. Like sometimes like the saying that you are trying to fit a square peg into a round hole, like that was me yesterday, thinking that I can just make do the character design in Lovable. Like just give me a cool 3JS character, make it a bird, make it a bird flying. And then ended up with a spinning acorn. It's like, what is happening? So if you have a cool 3JS project and Lovable and 3JS, and you build something that more resembles, something that you would see on the 3JS like website or Twitter page, even if it's something simple like not simple, but I can't imagine this is simple. This looks complicated. I mean, this is really cool donut looking thing, but the animation here and the particles are wild, right? And so again, if you could build like this, if you could build like an interface around a game, so imagine like this inside of like a Lovable UI somehow, and then like the controls are on screen, but you control it using the Lovable UI, that would be cool. I have something like this. Like this is pretty, it's like a Helix or something. Anyways, but not as cool as, I mean, this is much cooler than what I ended up with the with this thing. Is this yeah, so look, see, not bad. I mean, it's not this, but it's a version of that, right? So again, if you've done anything cool with 3JS, cooler than this, which is probably easier to do something cooler than this, but if you have a project, let me know. Share it with me on X, share it with me here on YouTube. And if you have any tips for making cooler projects with 3JS, then let me know. All right, until then, have some coffee, build something cool, and share it with the world. And share it with me here on YouTube or X. You can find me at Lovable. You can find me at graysreality.lovable.app. You can find me x.com/graysreality. And YouTube, same handle. My name is Aaron, and thanks for hanging in there with me. Appreciate you. Appreciate you being here. Just had a conversation about the use of appreciate you. I appreciate you for tuning in and checking out this channel. Subscribe if you